Hi everyone, welcome to Living Linkie Style. My name is Linkie Marais, and where I usually share a lot of great, tasty, easy recipes with you guys. Today I'm just going to talk about it because we are going to play with our food. Instead of doing a whole bunch of different recipes, I'm going to show you some tricks of the trade when it comes to chocolate. Yes, I said chocolate, so don't turn the channel because we're going to gain some weight today. So there's lots of different chocolates out there. My favorite thing to do is chocolate cake. So I'm going to show you how to do a chocolate cake, how to ice a chocolate cake with some chocolate buttercream that I've already mixed up. And I'm going to show you some different little chocolate garnishes that comes in very handy. And it's so easy if you just practice it, but it comes in so handy when it comes to saving money to garnish your food beautifully. And then I'm also going to mix up a cocktail. Yeah, well, it's chocolate time, so what better thing to have than a chocolate martini, a chocolatini. So I'm going to show you that as well. So just to start off of, like I said, there's so many different chocolates out there. There's, Ghirardelli, there's Nestle, there's all kinds of different chocolates. When it comes to decorating cakes, what you want to do is mix into your icing probably something that's semi-sweet chocolate. And you can just check these out. You can find it at grocery stores. They have usually different percentages of chocolate. Now we all know that it comes from the cocoa bean, but the more percentage of chocolate you have, the more bitter your chocolate becomes. So if you're a sweet tooth, then of course you want the milk chocolate. But when I usually mix up my frosting, which is an easy recipe, it's only 2 sticks of butter, 1 cup of shortening, 2 pounds of powdered sugar, 6 tablespoons water or milk, and then 1 tablespoon of flavoring, either whiskey or vanilla extract or lemon. And then you just beat that. And then I also add about a half a cup to a whole cup of melted chocolate. And what I usually add into my chocolate frosting is a semi-sweet chocolate because it gives just a little bit of that hint of bitterness that I love about cocoa, but it still keeps it sweet enough to where it's perfect for your cake. So without any ado, let's get started. So what I have is I have baked 2 8-inch chocolate cakes. And what you want to make sure when you decorate your cakes, and I'll just get this out of the way. Just a little tip. When you do bake cakes, I usually spray the mess out of it, and then just a small little piece of wax paper on the bottom. It doesn't have to be cut out like the circle. It could be a small little square because if your cake is going to stick, it's going to stick usually in the middle. So make sure you just put a small little piece there, spray the mess out of it, and it usually helps getting your cakes out very easily. But what you want to make sure is you want to make sure that you level off your cake, and this is very important because if you put your cake upside down like this with a dome, then all these sides right here are going to be too heavy, so you're going to have your cake that's going to crack in half. So you want to make sure you level it out. And there's different leveling tools that you get. You get these little cake saws that can saw it right off, or you could just use a regular knife. But make sure you use a serrated knife, because if you don't, then you're almost going to cut or slice your cake very roughly to where it's going to crumble. Where if you have a serrated knife and you just move it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, then you're sawing instead of squishing your cake, if you will. And then you can either eat this or you can discard it. Or in my case, my husband usually comes home and says, "Where's my Scooby snack?" All right, so just level it off. And a quick little tip, if you have a hard time or if you're not sure if it's quite level, what you can do is use toothpicks and pick up your cake, measure it from the bottom, maybe 1 inch, put a toothpick. Move a little over, measure 1 inch up, put a toothpick. Measure 1 inch up, put a toothpick. And that way you can go according to the toothpicks and get a perfectly squared cake. So once you have it leveled off, what you want to do is you want to flip that cake upside down. And the reason you want to flip it upside down is, once again, all these crumbs. Let's see. Just got to get these crumbs off. The reason you want to flip your cake upside down is because the cake almost gets a coating on the side that gets baked in the pan. So you'll make sure that you don't get a whole lot of crumbs in your icing, which that's key when you decorate any cake, is not to get crumbs in your icing. So this one real quick, and I'm just going to level this in my hand because I've done this for a while. I can do this. And watch me mess it up now. Level that off and get it right here. I'm actually going to set this back in the pan because we're going to start out like this. I always start out with more icing than I need because it's easier to take away icing than it is to add and not get crumbs. So I get my icing on there. I know that's a lot, right? And then what I do, I've got all these crumbs, I just want to get them out of the way because I'm OCD. What you want to do is you want to grab your spatula. Something that I find very useful is to hold on to it, and then with your index finger right there, you press down on the spatula. This gives you more control of your spatula. And when you decorate your cake, it's almost a back and forth motion. You want to make sure that you push the icing to the side, almost creating a wave. So you're going to push your icing to the side, and if you pick up your spatula, never pick it up like that because it lifts off your icing and it will get crumbs in your icing if it's too thin at that point. What you want to do if you lift up your spatula is lift it off to the side. And what it is it's a back and forth motion at a 45-degree angle, and you're just pushing your icing off to the side. And this is where cake turners come in very handy because it's hard to move around like this right here. But if you can, with one hand, spin the cake turner and with the other hand spread it, then it just works so much easier. And you almost want to bring that icing a little bit over the edge. And then you start taking away at a 45-degree angle, take off the excess and level off your icing. And then our next layer up, we're going to use our chocolate cake and sit it right there. So what you want to make sure you do is kind of press down very gently on your cake to make sure that all the air that's trapped between those two layers push out to the side. And then what you do is you just go around and just get all that excess icing off. And we'll smear that. Now what I usually do is I have a crumb bowl because this that I just removed from here is going to have some crumbs. So just get that on your crumb bowl or off to the side of your bowl. And then this is going to go into the refrigerator for just a few minutes to make sure that the filling sets. Okay. So you want to make sure that you keep that in there just for a few minutes, maybe 10 minutes or so, just so it can set. And while that is setting, I'll get this out of the way. Trying to keep my kitchen clean. Since Mama has been here last time, I'm trying to keep a clean space. And just since I have that, I want to quickly share this little tip with you. If you get this at a grocery store or anything like that, it's called no skid, and it's what you usually line your drawers with or cabinets with. It's perfect to keep your cake from sliding back and forth on your wheel turner. So what I've got here is I have some of these little melts, and you can find them at a grocery store or a craft store, and it's just the Wilton candy melts. And what they do is they're just so easy to play with because they don't need any tempering. So it's perfect if you want to pipe out little doodads or anything because you don't have to temper the chocolate. So what I usually do, you can melt this over a double boiler, or the great thing about this is you can just pop it right in the microwave for 30 seconds, take it out, stir, 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 pop it back in, 30 seconds, stir, 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 and that way you get your chocolate melted quickly and easily. And then we are going to line our countertop with wax paper. Now, if you have granite countertops or marble countertops, this is perfect because it's colder. Your chocolate is going to get dry very quickly and it's going to set up very quickly. If you don't have any of that, you can use a cookie sheet and just pipe right onto the cookie sheet, pop it in the refrigerator for just a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes, and then take it out and go ahead and use your garnishes. So we're going to stir, stir, stir. Funny story, I was on Food Network, season 8, and 2 summers ago. And at one point I was actually tempering chocolate, and I watched the season back, you know, when it aired on television, And nobody bothered to tell me that I had chocolate all over my face. So here I am on Food Network and I'm just stirring away and I've got chocolate everywhere. So I'm gonna make sure that I don't do that today. While we have that going, something that I'm gonna use to decorate my cake with is I'm gonna use these semi-sweet chocolate morsels to make a quick ganache. Ganache is basically, it's chocolate, but you add heavy cream to it, and sometimes you can add butter to it, and it's just almost this liquid chocolate that's delicious. It's creamy, and it's perfect to pour over cakes or to use as a chocolate sauce. So we're gonna use about 2 cups, and there's different recipes out there. I usually just eyeball it, but it's about 2 cups of chocolate morsels, and we are going to use probably about a 1/4 cup, that's about a 1/4 cup or so, of heavy cream. And then we're gonna do the same with this as we are with the chocolate. We're gonna pop this in for 30 seconds. And then we're gonna stir, 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 pop it back in for 30 seconds. Once again, you can do this over the stovetop, but I like to keep things fast and easy and very convenient. So if you do this over the stovetop, what you would do is you would heat your heavy cream to just before it starts boiling. And then you would take that heavy cream and pour it onto your chocolate. That's actually the proper way of doing it, by the way. You would pour your hot heavy cream onto your chocolate morsels and then stir, 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 and then later on you can add your butter if you do want to add butter. Of course, you guys know me, I always add butter to everything. But this is perfect and melted. See how fast that was? That wasn't even, I don't know, maybe 2 minutes. And we'll stir this. I'll get another spoon for this, my ganache. And it's gonna become this delicious, it's almost like it's almost like a sauce. It's delicious. It's a fun thing about playing with chocolate, is you get to lick your fingers afterwards. Okay, so back to our chocolate garnishes. I'm going to use a piping bag. If you don't have a piping bag, you can use a Ziploc bag, but it's easier to control a piping bag. And these are so inexpensive. You can pick them up at grocery stores. And what you would do, I usually bring it over my hand. And with the chocolate, it's so easy because you could just pour it. Let me move this to right there. And you just pour it right into your bag. Take off the excess. And this is where it becomes fun, because you can literally pipe anything that you want, and it will harden up to where you can stand it up. I'm gonna move this out of the way so that you guys can see easily. All right, so then you snip your tip, the size that you want to pipe. I'll do it about like that. Let's see. And what you want to make sure that it has a nice steady flow. So to start out with, we want some garnishes for our chocolate cake. So there's so many different things you can do. You can start out by piping circles. That messed up a little bit right there. So it's just a round, and you make another round and another round. And the great thing about these, they're going to harden, so you can stand them right up in your cake. Something else that you may want to do is make swirls all the way up. And it's just practice. You can practice this by drawing it out on a piece of paper. So just practice with your hand, going back and forth, up and down. Now, the fun thing about this is if you're doing mini desserts like mini cheesecakes or mini brownies or cupcakes, you can pipe it really small and have little garnishes for your cupcakes or mini desserts. If you're not feeling like you're artistic one day, you could just do this. Scribble, scrabble. Because let me tell you something. It looks simple right there, but when you stand that up into a mini dessert, it looks very fancy. And people are gonna like, where did you get that? So scribble scrabble, or stars, or whatever you wanna do. Now what I like to do sometimes is I like to do boxes, where I pipe a box, and this is better if you measure it out, but I'm just gonna eyeball it. And you pipe kind of the same size box. And then basically you would just glue this box together and you have a see-through box. So say for example you're getting married or you have a party and you want to do some wedding favors. You can do these little chocolate boxes and pop a truffle into each box, and your guest will be so wowed that you have such fancy little, and you can also crisscross. The more chocolate you pipe, the fancier it gets, and the more sturdy your piece gets. This is how fast this chocolate is. I'll show you. This is already hardened up. Look at that. Tell me that is not too super cute. And we'll wait for these to do whatever set up, and then I'll put that together. But this is fun because you can also stand up your little pieces by piping a piece of chocolate, and we'll take this one right here. You can stand it up and you just hold it there for a few seconds. The anticipation runs high. You just have to hold it there for a few seconds, which is okay, because the great thing about doing this is if you are doing a party for a lot of people and you want to make sure that if you do have help, that they can just grab it and put it on. So then you would just hold it there for a few seconds and you can let go. And then if you're scared that it's going to fall over, which I am, then you can just reinforce with a little bit more chocolate. And this is great for centerpieces too. Or if you are doing a plate and you want to do some fruit around, it's perfect for that. Let me quickly stir my ganache. And it's getting so nice and creamy. I'll make sure I don't spill it all over my little chocolate garnishes. The reason we're going to use this ganache is we're going to actually pour it over our chocolate cake. So I want to make sure that all the clumps are out. Now if you're scared that there's going to be too many clumps, what you can do is you can use a whisk. A whisk helps breaking up all those little clumps, and it's just, this is perfect. I'm actually going to add a little bit more heavy cream, and just to give it that pour consistency that I'm looking for. Pour, not pour. All right, there we go. And this is perfect. Now, like I said, this is awesome for dipping purposes, or you'll see in a minute what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this in my martini. Okay, so you have your little chocolate garnishes, like I said, as I promised. You can put these great little pieces together. Look how cute. That is just precious. And what you would do is you would just pipe some chocolate on the sides. And then it's the same thing. You would just put it together like so. This is actually going quickly. Look how fast that hardens up. And you would do the same here. And you can always fill in the gaps later. If there's little gaps, you can pipe it in later. Of course, this will be not much prettier if you actually measured it out. If you measure out the pieces. Oh, let me pipe it right here. And voila. Oh, well, it's a little crooked because I didn't measure out, but you get the idea. And you just hold it there until it hardens. Hold it there for a second. And you have a cute little box. You can even make a top to it if you want. And I'll let that sit there for just a second so it can harden. In the meantime, we can get our chocolate cake out because it's sit there for a while. So the center part of the filling should be good to go. I'm going to move this over and bring this back over. So, without any ado, let's start icing the rest of it. Like I said, you want to make sure that you add plenty of icing because it's easier to take away than it is to add once you've already got crumbs in it. And remember your finger supporting the spatula, and you're creating that wave out to the side. Now, there's many different ways of icing a cake. Some people do the sides first, other people do the top first. The reason I do the top of my cake first, you'll see why in a minute, is because you're pushing that icing out to the side, creating that almost like a wave. Once we put the icing to the sides, or start icing our sides, that icing right there is going to push up the icing right here. That way you can create a clean slate and have that perfect corner, squared corner. So take away the excess. And like I said, you want to squat down and make sure that it's level. And then you start your sides. Now, when you start your sides, you get a little bit of icing on your spatula, and it's the same thing. You're creating a wave out to the side. You're going to start right there, and then by pushing the icing forward, you're creating that wave. So you're never actually touching the cake, but you do want to do it firmly. And then once you start again with the second piece, you're going to start before the wave and just create it further. This is so much fun. Funny little story. I was still working at Ole Miss, the University of Mississippi, as pastry chef. And one time I had to do, I think it was little 10-inch cakes, round inch cakes, but I had to do 50 of them. And after a while, I just got so bored. So one of my staff members, she said, Linkie, let's time you. Let's see how fast you can do it. Well, that time I was in shape for icing cakes. Let me tell you, my record, if I may brag for a minute, was 58 seconds per cake. So I couldn't do that anymore. Now it takes 2 minutes. And the key in icing these cakes is that you want to use this hand to rotate and this one stay at one place. A lot of people, when they're icing their cakes, they're trying to do this on the sides. You can't see what you're doing right there, but you can see what you're doing on this side, or if you're left-handed on the other side. So, and see how this icing is starting to push up the icing on the top. So by the time we cut the corners off, it's going to be perfectly straight. And then once you have that, then you can go around and smooth your cake. Now, make sure that when you do smooth your cake, that you keep your spatula on the board, or try to keep the board, use the board as a guide, because that's going to help you keep those corners straight up and down instead of doing a volcano cake or a, what do you call this, a tornado. So we're just going to smooth it and go around. And this is once again where I squat down and make sure that my cake is not doing this or it's not doing this. And you can just take it around and see what it's doing. And that's how you do it. Now there's different ways of getting it really nice and smooth. One of my tricks that I use, which by the way what I'm doing right now is just cutting that icing clean off, and that's creating that perfect corner. One of the tricks I use, but you have to use a specific consistency icing, this icing right here works perfectly if you do my recipe, is to use Viva paper towel. If you take the smooth side of that and you just, once your cake sits for about 5 minutes and you start smoothing it with the Viva paper towel, you get that really nice, clean, smooth look, almost like a fondant look. But in this case, we're going to take off the excess icing right here. In this case, I'm going to do a little pattern, and it's so easy, but it looks so nice and fancy. Take off all the excess here. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to take my spatula and 45-degree angle, just smear my icing up. And then the top part, we can do the same. Just a small little wave, pulling those side corners in. Or if you don't like the look, you can always smooth it back out. Grab your ganache and pour a little bit of your ganache over the top and let it drizzle off the sides. I'll pour it a little bit more and let it drizzle off the sides. If you just want to kind of guide it towards the edges, it will drizzle by itself. And it will create that really nice and yummy look. And then you can garnish and you can pipe. I'll teach you guys in the next episode, I'll teach you how to pipe a few different tricks of the trade. Some pretty corners and edges. That's a whole nother episode, so stay tuned. And then at this point, you can do all these fancy little things that you used. Or if you have strawberries, you can even add strawberries to the concoction. Ooh, chocolate dipped strawberries. Don't mind if I do. Dip them in the chocolate, and I'm going to put mine straight onto the cake. Look how pretty. And if you want, you can add another little fancy doodad. And tell me that is not beautiful. Or you can even stand them up on the edges. If you have tiny little ones, you can stand them up on the edges. And it's so easy and perfect. Now, if you have any of the excess ganache, this is where the fun comes in. You can grab some of your ganache, drizzle some on the edges of your martini glass, put a little bit on the bottom, or you can make it really pretty if you want. Get some ice. This is the fun part. Add some ice. Add a little bit of whiskey. We're gonna add, you can either use cocoa liqueur or you can use coffee liqueur, whichever one you prefer. Some of that, some heavy cream, or you can use half and half if you don't feel like you want to splurge. In a martini shaker, or in this case, just a little stir. Just stir that up. Pour it into your beautiful little glass. And booyah! Look how gorgeous. And then if you want to, you can whip up some heavy cream. But look how beautiful that is on the sides. It's just absolutely gorgeous. We'll add just a little bit of heavy cream, just to drizzle on top. Why not? Because I love heavy cream. And cheers to chocolate is all I have to say. I have many recipes on my website, livinglinkie.com. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter. I love to share all kinds of different tips and techniques. So please follow me and tune in next time for more fun and exciting things to do with your food. Cheers, y'all.